And finally, we are here at Fantasy Authors Handbook. I'm Phil. You can't see me. We're going to do this one table style. This is the May 2024 book haul. All of the books that I bought in the month of May 2024. Without further ado, let's start with the books that I buy every Wednesday. I buy at least one book every Wednesday. That's just a thing that I have set up in my life to do. Okay. And they come in at different times depending and so on. But these were sort of the books that I ordered, starting with this. The big book, the Black Lizard big book of Locked Room Mysteries. Edited and with an introduction by Otto Penzler. This is not the first of his books. I've got a big book of adventure stories that I've been slowly working my way through. Loved it. So I just have this idea for a Locked Room mystery story of my own. But I realized that other than like a couple of Poe stories, right, when I went through my Edgar Allan Poe stage when I was really just a kid, remember a lot of those. I'm not what anyone would consider an expert on locked room mysteries. And I looked around for, is there a book like How to Write Locked Room Mysteries? I could not find one. And then I thought, well, I'm a pretty smart guy, right? But also, advice I've always given to authors is don't write in a genre that you don't actually read and you don't actually know about. So, of course, then, right, what is a author with an idea to do? Well, go find a big book of locked room mystery stories and read at least some of it, right? Read some. And see what authors like Stephen King, the legendary Dashiell Hammett, Lawrence Block, Agatha Christie, George Simeon, Dorothy Sayers, P.G. Wodehouse, Earl Stanley Garter, and many, many, many more, many more in this gigantic, big, crazy paperback book. This is the second one I received because the first one, which came from Amazon, new, and I paid new money for it, right? At least Otto's getting his royalties for that. It's all banged up, just tossed into an envelope. Please, Amazon, can we just at least try? So that one got sent back. This is the replacement. It is still not perfect. Corners binged, dinged, and danged in transit. Amazon needs to get better at shipping books, which I know, right? They started as an online bookseller. They have forgotten how to ship books. Anyway, the big book of locked room mysteries. I'm just going to flip through just because obviously we're not going to look at this entire ginormous freaking book. I mean, this thing is so big. But I just love these. And you know what? Why, as the collector of things and collector of books, why don't I just have all of these Black Lizard big books of stuff? I know I would like all of them, right? Am I assigning myself to that? See how it works? This is how the collector brain works. Why don't I have all those? I should have all those. I'm going to get all those. Anyway, lots and lots of stories. Here's the table of contents. I'm not going to read through all of this for you or anything like that. But in general, right? Such a large book. It's presented almost like really like a magazine, right, in the 2-column format, which in the adventure story anthology I found very comfortable to read because the pages are big, right? I mean, I have fairly big hands. This is not a small book. Here's a mass market paperback that we'll see in a minute next to it. It's a good sized book. And, it's really kind of just the facts, right? And so in terms of just the stories, there's no illustrations or anything in there. It's just when I tell you there's a big book of, right, genre / subgenre here, Otto Penzler is not kidding. It is content, and more content. They aren't the single most comfortable thing to read. I found that with the adventure stories, when I was sitting at a table like this and it would open, right, that was sort of the more comfortable way to read it. I don't have my reading glasses on. So we're going to have to hold this up real close to see how many pages that is. Let's get that focused. Can we see where the last page number is? That's a lot of pages, right? This is a big book of locked room mysteries. So will I study these? Yes. Will I write that eventually? So many ideas, so little time, but then also time wasted doing other stuff where I could be writing. So this is a conversation that I have with myself all the time. Why are you not writing? Anyway, we're going to slide this over there, Jules Burt style. Love them. Also, what I'm doing, not just buying books that I think maybe would be for a writing project or just because they sound interesting, which we'll see, I'm completing collections, right? So hence we have The Secret in the Sky, that's Doc Savage number 20. I am collecting all of these Bantam kind of 1970s Doc Savage reprints. This one came from a used bookseller on, I think, eBay, but came to me in really nice shape. I mean, obviously, this is a book that's got some decades of wear behind it, right? But it's actually in pretty decent shape, right? The cover it's a little curly there, right? It's a little curved up this way. Once I press it in with the rest of the collection and they're in there with books, that'll get, kind of straightened out. What can I say about Doc Savage? It's like you either get it or you don't, and you don't really have to. These are like hyper dated stories, mostly published in the 1930s. Macho action man, kind of light science fiction elements, written very, very quickly, mostly by a guy named Kenneth Robeson, they're credited as by Kenneth Robeson, but mostly by a guy named Lester Dent, who was just this sort of pulp fiction legend. I love the way they're so padded. It's just like, how can we say in 3 paragraphs what any other author would say in 1 sentence? Just to get to that like 60,000 word per month word count. These were published in magazine form back in the day. Anyway, they're fun. In many ways, a lesson on what not to do. I'm sorry, I tipped the camera there, but a lesson in what not to do in terms of sort of writing style, especially writing for a contemporary audience. But again, some of these stories are now 90 years old. So, and there is and we should talk about and always think about when we're reading older books, the context in which they were written. And this was, give me words right away. We have a schedule. This magazine's coming out every month, and it has to have 60,000 words of Doc Savage adventure fun. So, there's no dilly-dallying. You don't dilly-dally. This is dilly-dally free. Doc Savage. I absolve you from having to collect that. I'm doing it for all of us. Then there's this. Why did I pick this out? It was on my list. I have that big Amazon wish list. And I saw the movie a long time ago, right? I've heard that the book, you always hear that the book is better or the book is different in lots of ways. I kind of don't honestly remember the movie, but have recently seen somebody talking about this in a video, and I was like, I should throw that on my list. And then I was kind of like, oh, there it is. Why not? Why go back and buy another thing that's been on the list for 10 years? Just how about that one, right? It was inexpensive ish anyway, right? And Penguin Classics, there's nothing bad about that. Penguin Classics does a terrific job with everything they do, really. And so there it is. Joan Lindsay, Picnic at Hanging Rock. Is it a horror novel? Is it fantasy? Is it slipstream? Is it magical realism? It is the haunting novel about the disappearance of 3 boarding school girls that inspired the acclaimed film. Okay. A cloudless summer day in 1900. What could possibly go wrong? We'll find out. Speaking of books that I keep hearing about on YouTube, right? All of the English YouTubers talk about Nothing But the Rats by James Herbert. It sounds fantastic. I do wish I could have gotten it in that crazy old UK mass market with the big rat on it. Instead, I had to content myself with the new current version. Simple black with gold foil. Look at that. I'm doing that on purpose so that you can see how shiny it is, with little rats kind of caught up in the word rats, or in the title, The Rats. The obligatory foreword by Neil Gaiman. I don't want to get into a thing about Neil Gaiman or whatever, but you know what? Publishing, fantasy publishing, horror publishing, even science fiction publishing, there are other authors out there besides Neil Gaiman who might have something interesting to say. I'm not saying he doesn't have something interesting to say, but is it me? It seems like almost every book that is reissued in a new edition like this has a foreword by Neil Gaiman. Is that what his career is now? Right? Like he's made the TV money or whatever, and what the hell, I'm just going to be the guy who writes forewords? But anyway, I haven't read the foreword, and maybe it's really super informative, and, you know, he's a smart enough guy. He's been around. He didn't spend, like, lots of words on it. But, you know, right. Okay, seriously, everybody, it looks like my camera froze up on me. I don't know where I left off, but anyway, I was just kind of throwing a little bit of random and pointless and, you know, a little bit of shade at Neil Gaiman for no reason. This is The Rats by James Herbert, British horror story in this groovy UK edition that I did buy brand new from Amazon, so it's, you know, pan. Anyway, The Rats by James Herbert, looking forward to just a fun... Oh, you know what? What was I thinking? So I found on... It's the Horror Aficionados Goodreads group. They're doing this challenge where you pick a word from a list of words, and then what you have to do, or, you know, right, to complete the challenge, is read a horror novel with that... where the title begins, and obviously we're leaving out where the title begins with one letter in that word that you have picked out in that order. And I thought, well, this kind of sounds like fun, right? And I've been sort of like, hey, I kind of feel like I'm not reading enough horror, and I should be reading some more, so why not? It goes from now through August. And so I thought, well, you know, in order to just really make it a fun thing and not some kind of, you know, second or third job, I picked one of the shorter words, and in my case, I picked fear. So I have to read a horror novel whose title begins with F, then E, then A, then R. And it turns out in my collection, the first one I'm reading right now is Frankenstein. I already had books that I either haven't read, or in the case of Frankenstein, read a bazillion years ago and then did, you know, sort of a audio book of it. And I mean, 30 years ago or something. So it was on my soon and inevitably to be read or reread pile anyway. So I'm like, perfect. Frankenstein is F. And then I just sort of looked through my library and found two more that were E and A, but I didn't have R, so I put, I think it was Revival by Stephen King on my Amazon list, completely forgetting, because I had this sort of on a different stack waiting to do this video. The Rats by James Herbert. This will be the R in my Horror Aficionados Goodreads group FEAR challenge. How about that? Very excited. That means that this will be read sometime between now and I believe it's the end of August. Look at it. Oh my gosh. You know, the unintended consequences and all of the happy accidents, and goodness gracious. Next. So I've talked a little bit about in some of these videos and on my blog and so on about supporting indie authors and actually reading indie authors, not being dismissive of independently published books. And, you know, just, it's time and to kind of, since I've started this channel and everything, really walking the walk and not just talking the talk. And I really do read indie books. And here's one that I have been seeing for a little bit It looks really interesting. It kind of looks right up my alley. It looks really beautifully done in paperback, right? Professionally rendered, looks terrific. And I don't know, it just seems like fun. Wrath of Olympus, which is book 1 in the Ships of Britannia series by E.M. Kula. I'm going to go ahead and say Kula. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. E.M., if you're watching, go ahead and tell me how wrong I was, and I will try to do my best to correct it in the future. But, you know, the basic premise is fun. The Roman Empire never fell. The gods are real. Ships are alive. Phil is reading. So, yeah, if you are letting snobbery or maybe 1 or 2 early bad experiences with indie books back in the everybody's just throwing up nonsense on Kindle for 99 cents era, which is long since past, don't be sleeping on indie authors, especially if you are a regular fan or reader of genres that may not be right in the super trendy area of, you know, like fantasy romance or whatever. I'm really looking forward to this, Wrath of Olympus. And of course, like as with any book that's book 1 in a series, if I love it, I will read the rest of the series. So, right? Independently published books are not automatically bad, y'all, right? Who knows, right? This looks great. If this exact book was sitting in a bookstore from Tor or Del Rey or whoever, I'd be like, ooh, what's that all about? That's cool. So why would the fact that the author sort of bypassed that system and just made it happen himself, I believe? Themselves, their selves. Anyway, don't sleep on indie books. You're just missing out, right? Your snobbery does not hurt. Well, it can hurt other people. It certainly doesn't help you, right? Indie books, because, right? And not only, and no, obviously you're seeing books that I've got here from Pan, from Penguin, right? Vintage, these are big publishers. Bantam is still around, etc. It's not, I only read books by indie authors or I only read books by traditionally published authors. Why live in that digital world? It's not this or that. It's this and that. Right? Okay, so those were the books. Whoa, how many is that? 5 in all. That I just sort of ordered on a Wednesday and they showed up. Showed up and then had to be returned, and then the replacement showed up in the month of May. Here's the one that's in a list all by itself. So a former co-worker at Wizards of the Coast, we'll just give his first name in case he wants to be semi-anonymous, named Carl, just contacted me by LinkedIn message, which is not generally the way to contact me, right? If you really want to just shoot an email to me, AthensAssociates.com, and there's a contact form right there. Just boom, that comes right to me. But, you know, I check in on LinkedIn, I think every morning. Really, I do every morning. So I saw that there, and he said, hey, I've got this advanced reader copy of this Ursula K. Le Guin book. I can send it to you. It seems like something you would like. I'm paraphrasing the message. Give me your address and I'll send it to you. And I was like, wow, you know, okay, right? Sure. And so I did, and he did, which was super nice of him to do. But look at how beautiful this is. This is a fisherman of the inland sea, which I believe these are Hainish stories, or mostly, or some of, you know, from the Hainish sequence, sci-fi stories. This is actually an advanced reading copy. This is not the book as it existed out in the world, from Harper Prism in 1994. So this is obviously not something new or, hey, this is something that's coming out soon. This is something that has been out now for 30 years. Advanced reader copy, ARC is what we used to call it. If you pronounce it, to sort of say it as ARC. I'm not going to be mad at you or anything because that's perfectly fine. I've heard lots of people in and out of the business say ARCs, but that's what this is, right? This is limited to 1,500 copies to be distributed as gifts of the author and publisher. I don't know how Carl got his hands on it, but I'm glad that he passed it on to me. I just love every second of it, right? It does have that disclaimer that you'll see in ARCs, right? That if you find a typo, don't write a review about how there's typos in it. We're going to do some editing in between here and the final release, right? But here we go. Harper Prism. Collection of Ursula K. Le Guin short stories, 1994, from Harper Prism. And just it's a full, nice hardcover, right? Introduction, I believe by the author, right? No, I'm just flipping. The first contact with the Gorgonoids? I don't know. I pronounced that and just read that like I don't know what. Her initials on the spine. Just a great artifact. I love, just as a collector, as a fan of the author, first of all, right? Which I absolutely am. Delighted to have this. Enjoy. I already enjoy it. Carl, thank you, and thank you again. Jules Burt, that one over there. This one is, that's super cool. Okay. And then somewhere in the month of May, I did go to the used bookstore. I have been trying to mind my budget. We're doing some budgetary situations here at the old homestead. Got a vacation coming up in July, pushing some resources toward that. There's some repairs and renovation things going on at the house, right? So not going wild, doing eBay lots and stuff like that. Not going to like weekly giant, $200 used bookstore binges. But then, we went to the used bookstore. And if you've seen my various book haul videos, you saw that I got the autobiography of Harry Harrison. And then realized, God, it's been forever since I read anything by Harry Harrison. I need to go out and buy a bunch of Harry Harrison books because that's the way my brain works. And so I just sort of went to the used bookstore and went to the science fiction section and went to H and was like, oh, Harry Harrison everywhere. Here's what I got. I got Homeworld, which is book 1 in the epic trilogy To the Stars, which was sitting right next to Wheel World, which is book 2 in the epic series, or the epic trilogy To the Stars, which means that I still need one more book that I have to go out and find, which is going to be Star World by Harry Harrison. These are just, sort of bantam books, right? Very, very faded. I wasn't worried about condition. I was just kind of like, I want to actually just read these, and this isn't really necessarily some kind of big, rare collector item kind of deal. This is one here is the third printing from July 1981, so it's not even super old. But so what, right? So I have 2/3 of the To the Stars trilogy, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be too desperately difficult to find Star World. And so there we are, right? Definitely very late 70s, early 80s covers, dude with jacket, gotta have that jacket, and the gun, and then like some UFOs over London. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't care. Harry Harrison was like the brilliant guy, and those look really super cool. And I will buy the third one because that's what I do. More Harry Harrison. Again, more or less bought at random, right? The Jupiter Legacy is as great a spellbinder as the Andromeda Strain. All right, I believe you. A high-tension novel of the future by Harry Harrison. Formerly titled Plague from Space. The space probe returned to Earth carrying a cargo of writhing death. I'm in, right? I mean, what kind of science fiction fan goes, well, I don't know about writhing death coming in on a space probe. That's kind of like, meh. No, you got to read that. You got to read that. I'm reading that. Bantam, once again, the publisher. Can we see? This is 1979. All right, yellow sprayed edges are still there. I think it's in fine shape. It's 100% readable, and it is The Jupiter Legacy by Harry Harrison. Terrific. And here's another one. Captive Universe, Mankind on a Journey to the Stars. Well, that sounds like a science fiction novel. The cover's kind of cool, right? This kind of big cylindrical spaceship with this sort of Aztec thing going on. Groovy. Everyone knows that the world is a hole in a universe of stone. Well, right? I don't know. What's that Alex guy who tells the truth and is victimized for it? You know I'm joking. This is the first Ace printing from December 1984. You know what? I don't believe that the world is a hole in a universe of stone, but this is a science fiction novel, so I'm willing to sign on for, what is it, like 160 pages. Harry Harrison. Captive Universe, some nice gold foiling there at work. I dig it, right? It looks great. And again, this is sort of the time period, right? Phil in high school reading and buying these mass market paperbacks like there was no tomorrow. Why didn't I keep every single one of them? You got to go back in time, don't you? And tell yourself, save every thing. And I know that, there's more videos on YouTube about how to not be a hoarder and how to give away all your stuff and not have anything and not be commercial or whatever. Save everything you ever bought in your life because you're going to regret it going away. I mean, the toys that I had, the original G.I. Joes, Major Matt Mason, oh my God. The entire original run of the Star Wars action figures. I got the envelope thing for Christmas that year. I mean, gone. Everything. I don't want this to turn maudlin. I'm going to proceed on to Time of the Great Freeze by Robert Silverberg rather than begin weeping. This was published by Dell, and so long ago that it had a cover price of 50 cents. Let's see. I think this one I just kind of found there, and I'm a unabashed, absolutely unashamed, and why would I be, Robert Silverberg fan. So, I find fourth Dell printing, June 1970. Again, this isn't some kind of like, the collectors are going after the fourth printing for sure. It's a book by Robert Silverberg that I want to read because I have had nothing but, happy reading times reading Robert Silverberg. So Time of the Great Freeze, I'm not going to read this extremely dense back cover copy. That's the kind of thing you might want to avoid. But again, book is in pretty decent shape for the age of it. Love the cover art, this kind of whatever that vehicle is, right? Some kind of like landing craft. And you got these guys in Arctic gear. And what do we got? Yetis? What are we talking about? Yetis? Okay, I'm not going to buy that book with that cover and Robert Silverberg. That's a 1-2 punch, everybody. 1-2 punch. Also by Robert Silverberg, because I was there in the S's, apparently. Conquerors from the Darkness, another Dell. Okay, so if you've been watching my book haul videos, look at that with the turtle. Spectacular. You know of my love for undersea science fiction. This is the second Dell printing. You'll see September 1969. That was the month that Phil turned 5. Yes, I do remember watching the moon landing on TV. I'm old. I don't know what to tell you. Chapter 1 is The Coming of the Sea Lords. Oh, just right. Robert Silverberg plus underwater sci-fi. Yes. 1,000 years in the future, the Earth has been conquered by an alien race and covered by a single sea. Done. And if the Chicago Tribune called it a lively story, who am I to argue with my former hometown newspaper? Remember when newspapers did... I was going to say, remember when newspapers published book reviews? Remember when there were newspapers? I mean, honestly, is that a thing anymore? I go to the store and I see, print copies of the Seattle Times, and I'm like, who's reading that? The internet. Okay. So you saw my video and you read my blog post about the Murray Leinster novelization? ? Of Land of the Giants. So I came across this and I was like, Time Tunnel Adventure number 2, Time Slip by Murray Leinster. Well, I'm buying that. Because right around the same time that Irwin Allen made the amazing Land of the Giants, he also made the amazing Time Tunnel, which is fairly self-explanatory, right? We have these sort of agents who go back in time through this machine that is indeed the Time Tunnel. They walk into the tunnel, they disappear, and they go, they end up somewhere back in the past. Time bomb. The experimental nuclear missile was sent through the time tunnel, but something went wrong. Well, first of all, I mean, something went wrong? Don't send experimental nuclear missiles anywhere. Don't experiment with nuclear missiles. And you don't just send it through the time tunnel. It went wrong from Jump Street. Yeah, I don't even know. So anyway, this is, I just had such a wild ride with Murray Leinster on the Land of the Giants book. This is the first printing, July 1967. I would be really surprised if this had a second printing, but who knows, right? These shows were reasonably popular in their day. What does this mean? So in that, when I talked about the Land of the Giants book, I was like, am I really going to start collecting these? I probably shouldn't start collecting these. I'm probably going to collect those. What am I not collecting? If not me, who? So I've now got Time Tunnel Adventure number 2, and there's no way I can have this in my life without at least getting Time Tunnel Adventure number 1, because if I don't balance the universe, chaos ensues, and everything slips into a dimension of darkness. Last of that trip to the used bookstore was the Little Book of Captain America. Now listen, I'm as much of a Captain America fan as anybody, right? I'm also a fan of Taschen, this great German publisher of art books in general. That one, right? Alex Ross, right? These great kind of weird plastic covers that they do. What's inside here? Super old school cap. The Little Book of Captain America. Written by who, right? Of course it's got to be Roy Thomas. Of course you've got to get Roy Thomas to write this. And then otherwise it's just loads of, going back into the Golden Age, original Captain America number 1. He's literally punching Hitler in the face. Spectacular. The Idol of Doom. It's small, and again, you can see kind of just by my hand that it's a little thing, right? It's no bigger. It's smaller, at least in one dimension, than the mass market book, but just groovy. Here he comes again. Captain America lives again in Avengers number 6, right? Number 4. It's right there in front of me, and I'm doing it from memory. It's all about Captain America. It's all about, through the years, up until whenever. This was just kind of in the clearance section, and I was kind of like, what? I don't know, was it $3? Did I pay $3 for this? Why would I not pay $3 for this? Look at that. It's a beauty. Was there a whole series of these in this trim size from Taschen with other superheroes? Does Phil have to pause in his search for Murray Leinster's Time Tunnel #1 and all the other Land of the Giants books to find that out? You know what? I can be happy with just the little book of Captain America, and look at him. Captain America. Fantastic. All right, and then last but not least, there's actually 4 books in the last but not least category. I ordered some books, and I have done this before. For years, I've actually been ordering books from them. Daedalus books. I will put links and stuff. One thing that I will give you a cautionary note. Just today I was on the phone with their customer service because I noticed 2 charges to my debit card account for $16.95, and I didn't know what those were. And their website made no indication when I went to my account page and saw the last order that I did that there was any charge, that I had actually bought anything. I know that nothing was shipped to me and all of that. And so the person on the online chat said, "Oh, I can't help you with that. That's the VIP program people you have to talk to." And I was like, "Well, I did not join the VIP program." To make a not even really very long story short, beware with Daedalus books. First of all, definitely buy stuff from them because they're otherwise fantastic. But they're doing that thing where, oh, you're going to get a free 7-day trial to the VIP club. And if you don't want it, come back and cancel it within 7 days. And if you don't want that, here, push this button, which I hate. I hate that so very, very, very much. Don't force me to opt out. Ask me politely to opt in. So anyway, I was unwittingly opted into this VIP club, which apparently does nothing as far as I can tell. I don't think I got any thing from them at all, and they certainly didn't give me any coupons or anything. They just charged me $16.95 twice, once a month. And here's the thing, the lady on the phone, super, super nice. We had a nice little chat. She reversed both of those charges and canceled my mysterious VIP membership. So order from Daedalus. They've got great stuff, including, and really what I love from them is that they have a lot of UK remainders. Remainders are books that were, sort of left unsold. And you'll see stuff like here, I might as well jump to this one real quick. You might see stuff like here's a little red dot, right? Sometimes there'll be kind of a marker thing across here, something like that, that says, okay, Craig Russell's Hyde did as well as it was going to do on hardcover. These are the ones that we have left, and so they get sold off to remainder distributors. And Daedalus obviously picks up a bunch of them, including stuff from the UK that they make available here, shipping from the US. And for like $5, $6, I bought a ton of stuff from them, actually. I don't know, maybe I should be in the VIP program. But anyway, look at their stuff there, and I do tend to like look and, well, what are they doing and what's Amazon doing? And they usually beat Amazon price-wise. So there's just some interesting stuff there. And they actually send me a printed catalog, maybe every month or however long. And it's just fun to look at a little like mail-in catalog. It's so quaint. It's just great. But anyway, I bought 4 books from them that were, again, extremely inexpensive and just looked really interesting to me. So here we go. Hyde by Craig Russell, right, in the original hardcover, obviously, in, brand new shape. It's a stunning reimagining of Edward Hyde. So yeah, right, the retelling of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Doubleday, New York. When was this from? This is definitely the first printing, first American edition. And we're seeing 2021. So recent vintage, yeah. I was a big fan of, I read The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde a million years ago in high school. I actually took an English elective in high school for science fiction. That was one of the books we read, that and Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. And I'm just, have always been kind of a fan of Stevenson. So, what's this guy doing? Grabbing that story and reimagining it. Why not? Right? Victorian Edinburgh, Scotland. Hyde, a novel by Craig Russell. Has a little red dot on it, but otherwise gorgeous condition. Really brand new, original first printing hardcover. Tremendous. My last name might be a bit of a giveaway, but I am of Greek descent. Greek American descent, right? My grandparents were from Sparta. Do not get me started about the 300 because it's all true. And I just saw this there and I thought, we're the shortest history of Greece, the Odyssey of a Nation from Myth to Modernity, and it's just this kind of teeny little book. That's a long history, right? I mean, Greece has as long a history as any civilization still in existence on Earth. So this is a lot of ground to cover for James. Ooh, I should have thought about how to pronounce that. James Ferguson. Oh, there was a glitch in the video right there, but I totally pronounced his name exactly right. I'm as interested in Greek history as any other Greek American who really kind of only feels like there's a Greek descent when I'm with my extended family at like a funeral or something. But anyway, I'm going to discover the cultural and political riches of Greece across 3,000 years, from classical might to modern rebirth. From the Experiment, New York, really nicely put together book, very clear, right? Illustrated, but not overly. All right? I mean, if you're interested in Greek history, let's see what this looks like. The shortest history of Greece. On my to-do list, my Amazon wish list was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. A book that it feels like I should have read. Why haven't I read this? That kind of thing. And so it was just there. And then I saw this in their catalog and I thought, oh, right. Inexpensive. Virago Modern Classics, UK edition again, right? Would be a UK remainder. In this case marked by the little dot there. And that is the only condition issue, which is not an issue for me because I've got remainders all over my walls, believe me. So there it is, right? A book that was already on my Amazon wish list that I got super cheap here from Daedalus. Lovely, again, right? UK edition, but why not a UK edition? Virago Modern Classics edition of Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. It is mine now. And this is absolutely the last one. This was just there in the catalog, and I thought, science fiction puzzle book? What? Now, I thought, oh, this is going to be like word searches and, whatever, stuff like that, crosswords and stuff. It's not. There's something else going on. It's by Tim Dedopoulos. Inspired by the works of Isaac Asimov, Ray Bradbury, Arthur C. Clarke, Robert A. Heinlein, and Ursula K. Le Guin. They wrote science fiction. And inside it's kind of groovy looking. Right? It kind of, you have to read like this little sort of story or little setup here. I'm not even sure, right? And then remember what you read. It's like, it seems to be a reading comprehension test here. I'm really digging this way more than if it was just like crosswords and word searches and stuff. This is kind of interesting. This one is nice 2-page spread there. Shuttle. And then the question is, who is the thief? No spoilers. If you know who the thief is, don't tell me. I haven't read it yet. And obviously it goes across the work of these various authors that were mentioned on the cover. It just looks like fun. And who says we cannot have fun as fans of science fiction grabbing something this weird from Welbeck Publishing, who I don't believe I've ever heard of. A sturdy, really heavy, nice hardcover. I paid very little for it. but it's got more than 100 out of this world puzzles. Dynamite, right? Dynamite stuff. A little bit of random, a little bit of collections, a little bit of, writing kind of research, and one gift from a friend. Again, Carl, thank you. And then the R in Fear for the Horror Aficionados FEAR Reading Challenge. This has been Phil. This has been Fantasy Authors Handbook. This has been my May 2024 book haul. Thank y'all.